Hello and welcome back to Devi Daily Yoga. I'm Devi Daly, and today we have a functional Hatha flow vinyasa practice with Yin Yoga. And so what does functional yoga mean? The functional approach to yoga means it's functional rather than aesthetic. So this is an all levels beginner-friendly class where we're going to be focusing on how postures feel, how the yoga feels more than how it looks. So throughout this practice, I will be telling you what I want you to be feeling and asking you to make adjustments from there. We will cover the whole body. We'll start out with more movement and then end up with more stillness and yin poses. And this is an all levels beginner-friendly class. We'll start sitting like this, and I'll see you in a moment. Coming into your seated position with your spine tall, with as much lift under your seat as you need so that you can sit with your spine tall. And it's nice to get a little bit of rocking forward and back in the pelvis to help the spine to find its alignment. And what we want to find is an even sense of energy in the front of the pelvis and in the back of the pelvis. So front and back of the spine, feel that they are kind of balanced and there's not any particular stress or energy being asked of either front or back. And then close the eyes as you're ready and settle into this for 1 minute of seated meditation and breathing, coming into this body, coming into an awareness of what's here. And without any sense of forcing it, just see if you can lengthen your breath. And the best way to do that is to just gently lengthen your exhale. Let the exhale go a little bit longer than you might if you weren't thinking about it. Breathing through the nose if it feels comfortable to do so. If not, breathing through the mouth is fine. And as you breathe and sit with this body and whatever is here, notice any sensations that might be causing discomfort in the body. Notice what is excited to get worked out today in the way of tension. And relax any places that you know that you habitually hold tension. So for some people that's the shoulders, the neck, the face, the hands, or the feet. Check in with those places. Maybe it's your lower back or your pelvis. See if you can breathe into any tense place and soften it a little bit just with your breath, just with your intention through your breath. And now gently let the eyes open up and come into a hands and knees position. And if you have tender wrists, you can do this down on the elbows or up on the hands. For those who are okay with the wrists, and beginning some gentle cat and cow. So start with a rounded spine, chin to the chest, tuck your tailbone, and then drop the ribs, lift your chest up, roll your shoulders back. And exhaling, rounding. And inhaling, drop the ribs, lengthen the backs of your thighs as you lift your sitting bones. And exhale and round once again. Inhale, lengthen up. And now with your exhale, round all the way back into child's pose. Taking 3 breaths in child's pose. And now coming up to hands and knees. And as you exhale, tuck your toes, lift your seat up and come into downward dog without any hurry to straighten the legs. So let's start out with these bent legs so that we can really stick the sitting bones up. It's easier to lengthen and straighten the spine here. Press strongly into the hands and then eventually start to lengthen the backs of the legs. If you don't get to totally straight legs, no big deal. We're just starting to feel it out today. If you want to pump the heels, press one heel down and then the other. If that feels good,
bringing a little bit of movement into this first dog. Great, and now with your inhale, bring it into a plank pose. So shoulders come over the wrists. Inhale your breath here, and as you exhale, drop your knees. Come all the way down onto your belly and lift up into baby cobra. So no weight on the hands. Let the hands hover above the ground. Press the tops of the feet into the ground, spread your toes out, and exhale, bring your forehead to the earth. Press your hips up and back, child's pose. From child's pose, come up, hands and knees. Lift your gaze, find that back bend, and tuck the toes, downward facing dog. And from downward dog, plank pose with your inhalation. And drop the knees, come all the way down into cobra pose, lifting it up. Release the front of the pelvis toward the ground, hands hover above the ground, and exhale, touch the forehead down to the ground. Lift your hips up and back, child's pose. Inhaling up, hands and knees, find the back bend, roll the shoulders back, and tuck the toes, downward dog. Moving a little more with the breath now as you inhale into plank pose. Exhale down onto the belly. Chaturanga if you want a little more energy in the arms, and lift up into cobra pose. This time, if you feel like lifting higher, go for it, or stay with that low cobra. And exhaling into child's pose. And one more time, inhaling up into the cat. Find the back bend, roll the shoulders back, tuck the toes under, downward dog. Inhale it into the plank. Exhale with or without the knees. And inhaling up into your cobra, low or high. Exhaling into child's pose. And breathing here in child's pose. Very good. Let's lift up into hands and knees now, and exhaling into downward dog. And now from downward dog, lift your right leg up and back, three-legged dog pose. Lift your gaze forward to find a little sense of a back bend here, and exhale, bend the right knee, take it forward and into a lunge. Drop the back knee down to the ground, untuck the back toes, and sweep the arms forward and up over the head. Anjani Asana, crescent lunge pose. Lifting up the chest, lift the gaze up. Feel free to modify anything that's happening in this practice. Listen to your body. If anything doesn't feel right, take a different arm position if you have any shoulder pain, or a different leg position. One more inhaling breath here. As you exhale, hands come to either side of the front foot, and now shift your hips back into half split pose. Hands can walk back to support you. And if you have blocks and want to modify this, use blocks under your hands. And now we'll go ahead and let the spine round so that we can really feel the stretch of the whole back body, the stretch of the back of the leg, all the way up over the back of the hip and over the entire torso. You can let your head relax and give a little wiggle to your hips side to side. If your leg is still slightly bent, that's okay if it doesn't straighten all the way, as long as you're feeling that stretch in the back of the leg and the back of the torso. And bring it forward onto the front foot again. Tuck the back toes, step back into plank, inhale your breath, and coming down to chaturanga or knees, chest, and into upward dog or cobra pose, your choice. Exhaling, downward facing dog. And breathe. Good, lift your left leg up now for three-legged dog, and lift up your chest, taking that gaze forward to find a little back bend here, and inhale. And now exhale, bend the left knee, bring it forward, bring it through to your lunge, drop the back knee to the ground, untuck the toes, and sweep the arms up over the head. And feel your breath. One more inhaling breath here, and now the exhale. Takes your hands down to the ground, shifting the hips back into the half split pose, and soften forward over the leg. The hands are wherever they feel most supportive for you, and again, blocks under the hands to lift you up if it feels challenging to reach the floor comfortably. So from this half split pose, now come forward over the front leg, and we'll tuck the back toes, step it back now into plank pose. Inhale the breath, and as you exhale, drop the knees, come all the way down onto the belly, and this time resting here, turn your head to one side, arms down at your sides. And feel your breath. All right, good. Bring your head to center now and lift your chest up and lift your arms and legs for a locust pose, Shalabhasana pose. So wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, feeling those limbs back there behind you. And now see if you can lift your arms up a little more from the shoulders so that you get more squeeze between your shoulder blades. And lift your legs up a little more so that you get more squeeze in your glutes and your lower back. And feel the energy shooting back through the fingertips, shooting back through the toes. One more inhaling lift here. And now exhale, turn your head the other way and rest. And now bring the head back to center and clasp the hands behind the back. And same thing, Shalabhasana with hands clasped, or if it's not comfortable for you to clasp the hands, just do it the same way we just did. Lifting everything up, lifting and squeezing the whole back body, and exhale and release, turn the head the other way. And now third time's a charm, so this time you can do either of those first two variations or bend the knees, reach back for the feet, and come up into bow pose. And if you're holding onto the feet, you're maybe holding the ankles, maybe the tops of the feet. Some people like to turn the hands the other way and hold the inside of the feet. That is fine, either way. And we'll kick back into the hands, however you're holding, to lift up a little higher, energizing the legs and getting the back bend from there. Good, release it down. This time press back, child's pose. And coming up now, hands and knees. And from your hands and knees position, thread the needle pose. So take this left arm, reach it up, inhale your breath. And as you exhale, slide it under, slide it through, coming into thread the needle pose. Maybe keeping both knees on the ground, or maybe taking this leg out to the side. And so what's the purpose of this pose? Something I've been exploring lately. It's maybe more of a twist for some people and maybe more of a forward bend for some people. My favorite thing to emphasize here is this side of the neck stretch. So what you have to do to get that is to lengthen your head. So kind of slide your head away from your left shoulder. And some people just like the stretch better with both knees on the ground. Some people are able to leverage it better with the foot out. So that is up to you. If you like having this top arm behind the back, go for it, or keep it on the ground for stability. Staying with your breath. Good, and now releasing, bringing it back to hands and knees. And from hands and knees, inhale the breath and exhale to the other side. So we lift the right arm up, inhale, and then take it under, take it through into your thread the needle pose. adjusting as needed to maybe get that side of the neck stretch by lengthening the right ear away from the right shoulder. And maybe taking that left leg out like a kickstand. Good, and now releasing, bring it back in, back to hands and knees. And from hands and knees, tuck your toes, come into downward facing dog. And now from downward dog, walk your legs forward towards your hands, come into Uttanasana, hanging over the legs with your feet about hips width apart. Hold opposite elbows to hang and release the whole spine, release the whole head. Finding a little movement here, sway side to side, letting the head hang as you sway side to side. Release the arms down. And now take a big step back with your left leg. Drop the back heel down, lift up into Warrior One for just one breath here. And now as you open it out to Warrior Two, shift the feet, turn to the left side, and turn your gaze out over your right fingertips. And feel the soles of your feet spreading out on the ground. And from those open soles of your feet, feel the energy drawing up, pulling up through the soles of the feet into your strong legs, into your strong lower back and pelvis. And now straighten this front leg, inhale your breath, and triangle pose. So I always like to shorten my stance a little bit for triangle pose to get that stability. I'm going to bring my right hand to my leg. You can bring your right hand to a block if you prefer, or to the floor if that works for your body. We'll take the left arm up, and you can arrange yourself however you like. You can dip your torso a bit or keep it upright. The two main target areas of this pose are this back of the leg on your right leg and the side of the torso, the left side of the torso. If you want to feel the side of the torso more, go ahead and take this left arm up and over into an angle. And if you want to feel the hamstrings on the right leg, you can dip your chest toward the ground a bit more. So exploring here, maybe a little more of a moving triangle pose than you're used to. And one of my favorite things is this arm variation. If you want to try this, taking the left hand behind the base of the skull. And that really, for me, gets that side bend in a nice way. Kind of pressing the back of the skull into the hand. Very good. Let's take this hand all the way down to the ground now as we come back into a lunge over the right leg. Step it back into either downward dog or plank. So you can hang out in dog, you can rest in child's pose even if you'd like, or from your plank, moving through a vinyasa. With or without the knees, lifting up into your back bend and exhaling into downward dog. Finding your breath here. And now stepping your left leg forward, coming into Warrior One on this second side, lifting arms up over the head, and right into Warrior Two on your exhale. And again, spreading out the soles of your feet, and from the open soles of the feet, like you're drawing energy up from the earth, lifting up into your strong legs and thighs and pelvis. And feel the spine rising up kind of effortlessly from this really strong, solid base.
Great, now straighten that front leg, shorten the distance between the legs if you feel like you want to again, and we'll take it into triangle pose. So this might be a new way to approach triangle poses. Since it's a very angular pose, we tend to get a little bit fixated in the yoga world on the angles, like that this should be a right angle, that this should be something that looks like a right angle, and the sides of the torso should be even, and all those things. So I'm going to encourage you today to let go of the angularness of it and see what gives you the sensation in the right side of the torso and this back of the left leg. What kind of adjustments or explorations can help you to feel those two places more. Maybe again exploring that right hand behind the head, variation, pressing the back of the skull into the hand. And now releasing both hands to the ground as you bend the front knee back into your lunge. And now taking a big step forward to the top of your mat once again and hang over the legs in Uttanasana. Release and relax here. And drop it down into a squat. So widen your feet as much as you like to for squatting, or if you're not sure, play around with it. Maybe the feet as wide as your shoulders, maybe even wider, or maybe a little more narrow, like hips distance. So the main thing that we want to feel in the squat is a stretch of the lower back, the back of the pelvis, and then maybe also secondarily some good stretch in the knees, the ankles. For me and for some people, the heels will hover like this. For you, they might go to the ground easily. And I like to keep my spine rounded to get that lower back sensation a little bit more. Let my head hang. Good. Let's bring it back, just coming to a sitting position and bringing the legs out in front of you for the first of our yin postures today, which is half butterfly pose, right leg forward and left leg bent to your inner upper thigh. And come forward over this leg, or feel free to sit up on a lift of a pillow or a blanket, folded blanket. And noticing this moment of shift from a more moving practice to more of a slow and stillness-oriented yin practice. Notice what's happening in your body. Notice what's happening with your breath in this moment.
And now slowly come on up and slowly change sides. Right leg in, left leg forward, softening over the leg. And slowly come on up. Spine comes upright, both legs out in front of you. Come all the way down onto your back and rest on your back for 1 full minute to feel the effects of the pose. Any comfortable position on your back. Bend your knees now, hug them into your chest, wrap the arms around the legs and gently rock side to side. And releasing the feet to the ground, stay on your back and take your right ankle over your left knee to come into figure 4 pose. Right ankle over the left knee, pull the leg toward you, holding on to the back of the thigh or the front of the shin. 1 minute here in figure 4 pose. Sometimes the head gets uncomfortable in this pose, and a lift under the head, a pillow or folded blanket or folded towel can make a big difference. And where we want to feel this pose is the buttocks of the right side. So you can adjust. This right foot could be higher or lower, or you could cross more tightly or more loosely to get that stretch feeling good in your body. And releasing the legs, change sides. Right foot to the floor, left ankle over the right knee, and draw the leg in. Again, your choice if you're holding behind the thigh or in front of the shin. And releasing, extend and rest for a few breaths on your back, any comfortable position. Eyes closed. Feel your breath. And now bend your knees, please. Wrap your arms tight around the legs as you lift your head up toward your knees, squeezing into a ball. See if you can engage your abs, squeeze your abs a little bit to get a little bit of a tighter ball. Great, and now releasing. Take your feet to the ground, arms down alongside of the body, heels close to the buttocks for bridge pose. Tuck your tailbone, lift your hips up, and clasp your hands under you if it feels okay. If it doesn't feel good to do that or it doesn't work out, you can have your hands flat on the ground, palms up or down as we come into a bridge pose. Heels can be down on the ground, or if you like the feeling of lifting a little higher, go ahead and lift your heels off the ground. Nice, and now from here, taking your right foot to the center, midline of your mat, and take your left leg up into the air. And press the sole of the foot up to the ceiling, lift your hips up high as you can, and exhale it down. And switch sides. So center the left foot flat or the toes, whatever you're doing today, and we'll take the right leg up. And now squeezing the muscles on the sides, on either side of the spine to lift up the hips. Press the sole of the foot up to the sky. Great, and lower your hips back down as you take that right foot to the ground. And open your feet out to about shoulder width apart, more or less. For windshield wipers, see what distance works well for you as you start to slowly sway your knees side to side. and see how far they want to go, maybe all the way to the ground or close to the ground. Side to side, windshield wipers, head can turn opposite direction of the knees now. Getting that nice twist, that nice internal rotation of the legs, one and then the other. Arms could come over the head if you prefer. Hold opposite elbows if it feels good, or just let them rest in any position, any angle. Great, bring the legs back up to the center. And draw the knees in to roll over to one side and come up to sit. We're moving toward half saddle and variations of half saddle. So your right foot will come next to you. And I'll show you a modified version in a moment. So if this doesn't work for you, sit tight or sit loose. What's the right thing to say? This is the sort of archetypal half saddle pose. And you can also do this with this leg bent if it feels better. You can let this knee open out to the side. And you are welcome to tilt your hips here as much as you need to so that it's not too intense on the knee. Sometimes letting this roll on the side happen will help to just make it a more safe pose, and your body will tell you. So the modified version, if your knee is not doing this today, then come from your seated position, you come onto your side, onto your elbow, and bend this right leg up and hold on to the foot. Or take a strap around the foot if there's a lot of tension there and the leg doesn't want to come up. And hang out here or lie down, maybe with some support under your head. 1 or 2 minutes in either position. We're already about halfway into that 2 minutes. And slowly release your pull. So maybe just untucking the foot or maybe rolling onto your side to get the foot out and make your way up to seated to get into the pose on the second side. So your left foot is next to you as you lie back, or you're starting out here on the elbow and then holding the left foot in the hand. And the target area of this stretch is primarily the front of the thigh. The front of the thigh is the quadriceps, several muscles in this area. So if you feel it mostly in your knee, or sometimes the foot gets tweaked more than anything else, then that means that you should adjust and maybe roll out of it, roll out of it a bit, just let the left hip come up. You can bend this knee to adjust your positioning, or use a prop under the back, or come into that variation on the side instead. and releasing the pose. So untuck the leg or roll away from it to get it out from under you, and make your way onto your back. Rest on the back for another 1 full minute. Feeling the effects of the practice so far, of the pose you just did, and all of these different parts of the body that have been stimulated and stretched for this practice, during this practice. Notice what's happening around your spinal column, especially. And now bending your knees and preparing for a spinal twist. Taking both knees in and over to the right side. Left arm out to the left side, right hand on the legs, or any variation of the arm position that feels good to you. Any variation of the leg position that feels good to you. So knowing that we primarily want to feel what's happening in the torso here, this stretch of the obliques area, and the stretch of the quadratus lumborum, the lower back, and especially the spinal column, the bones of the spine are getting a nice stimulation here. So if it feels better for you to cross the knees to get that stimulation, or if it feels better to keep the legs on top of each other, or if it feels best to straighten the bottom leg, which would be the right leg, left leg comes over, or to use a pillow under the knee or in between the two knees. Take your variation as you wish. And now taking your left arm up next to your head, so stay in the twist, keeping the knees over on the side, and left arm comes up along the ground next to the head, so that you're feeling more stretch in the left side of the torso, the left armpit, and start to roll it all the way over. So you're coming toward like a fetal position with this top arm tracing the ground, and then eventually coming down, elbow in toward the belly. And roll your forehead toward the ground, your nose toward the ground. So getting some upper body stimulation here. Let's reverse the movement we just did, taking this left arm, tracing along the ground. And if your arm is hovering instead of touching the ground, that's totally fine, as long as you're getting this nice shoulder and upper body stretch, taking the arm all the way out to the side where you started. And now do this one more time, tracing the ground above the head. Lengthen, lengthen the whole left side of the torso, armpit. And then bring the elbow in toward the belly, in toward your fetal position. And tracing the arm up over the head and all the way back out to the side. Great. Bring the knees up to center now and come into the twist on the second side. Take your time with the transition. And now staying in the twist as you take the right arm up next to the head, near the ground or on the ground. And feel this stretch. Just pause here for a moment as you feel the length of the right side of the body, the right armpit. And now start to turn the head away from the arm as you trace the fingers along the ground. And slowly come into that fetal position, rolling onto your forehead. And now reversing it, right arm comes up all the way over the head, opens out to the side where you started. And now very slowly, one more time, arm comes up next to the head, turn the head away from the arm as you roll over onto the side. And tracing back, take your time on this return journey all the way out to the side. Good, bring the knees up to the center and roll over onto the side as we come up to one final forward bend, the Caterpillar Pose. So both legs come out in front, also known as Paschimottanasana, as we take the body forward. And from the functional yoga perspective, where we are focusing on the target area of poses more than
angles and shapes. I really like the meaning of the Sanskrit name of this pose, Paschimottanasana, because it means west facing, or I think it's something like stretching the west side of the body, which is what this back side of the body is considered as. So we want to feel the stretch in the backs of the legs and up the back of the torso. So position your arms in whatever way helps you to get that. Position your legs in whatever way helps you to get that. You could have wider legs, you could have narrower legs. You could sit up on a lift of a cushion or two, or have support under your chest or under your head, as long as you're not putting too much support that you don't feel the stretch anymore. And sometimes this pose takes at least a minute just to really feel the body soften into it. There can be kind of a resistance to this particular pose, especially if there's a lot of hamstring tightness. So notice if there is resistance, see if you can soften that resistance, and just be with the pose for a bit. One of the things that I've learned about yoga the most as a teacher is that people experience and feel poses very differently. An entire room full of people doing this pose are all having wildly different experiences. Some people are totally relaxed, and you can't always tell by looking at them either. It doesn't, just because someone folds in half here doesn't mean it's their favorite pose, and just because someone is up here and not going very far doesn't mean that they dislike the pose. Some people who are in this shape up here are loving the pose so much and they don't want to be disturbed. So just know that your experience is yours. It's not different. It's not the same as anyone else's, and it's your choice how to adjust your poses and even how long to stay in them. If you feel like the time that I'm having you stay in them is too long or not long enough, you can always adjust and make it your own practice. Slowly now release, and very slowly make your way down into a final Shavasana. Make yourself comfortable with any props, with an eye pillow, or anything else you'd like to have to sink in to a place of feeling, absorbing, and resting.
And now taking an inhaling breath, filling the whole body up. And as you exhale, gently wiggle your fingers and toes. Feel the arms and legs starting to move a bit. Stretch your arms up over your head and stretch down long through your legs. And bend your knees, taking the arms into wrap around the legs as you roll over onto one side and come up to a sitting position, joining me to chant Om 3 times with your spine tall, with anything under your seat that you'd like to have, palms together in front of the heart. And exhale your breath to start. Just feel this sense of emptiness for a moment. And softly oming, so we inhale first. Om. Inhale. That's our practice today. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste. Well done. I hope you feel good after that practice. And if you do, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to ask me any questions or leave me any comments about this practice, I'd love to hear them. So leave them down below. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.